Hello, welcome to It Ain't You, the show that represents the history of ethnic minority groups in the US and where knowledge becomes power. If you don't know, now you know. We're Estar,
Nyke,
Bella.
your very real hosts.
The sanitization of Dr. King's works made it almost seem like when, as a youngster, when you're learning about Malcolm X, it's like everything that was opposite stood out so much more.
Oh yeah.
So
did you even learn about Malcolm X? I didn't learn about Malcolm X in school.
That's the other thing, right? Like, they don't teach about Malcolm X in school. I learned about Malcolm X because, again, I went to SF State.
Mm-hmm.
We have, at the Student Center at SF State, there is a section that is named the Malcolm X. It was like, I forget where, but I remember passing it so often. It was like literally like the Malcolm X Plaza or something like that.
Oh, interesting. I'm going to have to go up there.
Well, we also have like a wall mural that's dedicated to like Cesar Chavez.
I'm going to have to go up there because that's another thing. Cesar Chavez, a lot of people don't know this too. His brother-in-law is Thurgood Marshall.
Whoa!
But so, who killed Malcolm X? In the first episode, they tell you, like, hey, so the shooting happened in this ballroom. You know, his family was there. His family was not sitting with him. And when I say family, it's like, I remember it to be his wife and 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
They were not sitting with him, but they were in the room, right?
Yep.
So this happens. And if you watch any, crime procedural drama, if you watch like NCIS, CSI, all those dramas, right? You don't touch the crime scene. You let the police, you let all the other members who are there, you let them take care of the crime scene, take the photos, get the documentation, get all of that. And then, and this takes a couple days maybe, then you can kind of move on with that particular location. But it literally was like, it happened. An hour later, they were like, we need to clean up this ballroom because we have another event today.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Which...
Oh, or the fact that, well, actually, they did do a little bit more of the sanitization well, I mean, it's really more the disappearance of
of facts
of
and like all the other
and facts, yes, because it also gets added on to even Spike Lee's Malcolm X with Denzel.
Yeah,
the person who was there after he was unfortunately assassinated and was holding his head and basically saying like, we're just waiting for help and trying to calm him down as he's dying was Yuri Kochiyama, not Malcolm X's wife. Like, she's literally in the photo in Time magazine, but
no, we don't mention it. Sorry, what happened there? Who?
Who? We also don't talk a lot about I love this film One Night in Miami, where what happened between him and Muhammad Ali, what happened between him and I mean, again, it's like they're just not going to talk about it not because you can't do the research, not because it's because it's not even complicated history. Like, that's the crazy part. I could see if it was complicated.
Yeah.
And let me actually go back on a fact. Their connection, Cesar Chavez and Thurgood Marshall were actually not connected by marriage. It was like...
It was what?
Really close friendship to where it was like marriage. Like, they called each other.
Got it.
Really close friendship.
Yeah.
That was like marriage. Like, they called each other essentially that.
Okay.
So yeah, so they weren't actually related by marriage. It was just they were that close.
They were extremely good friends. Very, very close friends.
Yes.
So, hold on. My train of thought left the station without all passengers boarded.
We're Malcolm X. taking everything from him.
Yeah, so
You were
that was
talking about the documentary Who Killed Malcolm X,
yeah,
which
so
everybody said this from the beginning. Everybody knew it was a black person. We all knew that.
because he divided the black community so much.
Because actually, he didn't divide the black community. What was happening was, and this is why people have black Americans have a love dislike questioning relationship, because it's really not a love-hate relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely love, but we're going to question relationship
Right.
with the Nation of Islam, because the Nation of Islam is also separated from actual Islam.
And
Okay, even me saying actual Islam is something.
It's
again,
weird,
but black people have always had an issue with that, mainly because of, not that they don't understand even the need for a more like militant or more radical, we'll say, not necessarily militant, but radical, a more radical response to certain things, that they're like, is this really Islam? And then some of the stuff that they say about even black people, it's very weird, because it's like Islam is not all black. So how, like, it's one of those things where it's like, again, it's a love question.
Yes.
And then question with a little bit of critique type of relationship.
Right.
There's no, I think there's very few people that actually like outright hate or despise the Nation of Islam, because the Nation of Islam has done a lot of good stuff for the black community. But yeah, and this is, so it wasn't actually Malcolm X that divided.
Right. It was who he represented and then the group that he represented.
Right.
And we were talking about this earlier, where I don't think it got recorded, but Dr. King is known for his writings, his speeches. So he has a lot of published works that people can go back to refer to. That does not exist for Malcolm X, partially because every time when he was part of the Nation of Islam, anything he said had to be the prophet of, and
right.
And it was also was like, wait a minute, if you say the prophet Elijah, I forgot the rest of it, but if you're saying
it's Muhammad, more than likely there's a Muhammad in there. Yeah.
So if you're saying the prophet Elijah Muhammad is saying this, is it you who is saying this, or is it the Nation of Islam saying this?
Correct.
And who do you then attribute that article or that speech to? Because it's not, it doesn't go for both. And
even if he wanted to publish something outside of that, what publisher is going to approach? Is even going to touch Malcolm X with a 10-foot pole? This is why the autobiography of Malcolm X does not get published until Alex Haley comes along.
And it's like, at that point, it's a biography because someone else has to put their name on it to have it published.
It's a little bit of both, because he did contribute. Like, it was actually his writings, but there were parts that he could not finish because he did actually like pass away.
Yeah, so it was released post-mortem.
Posthumously.
Yes, sorry.
Posthumously.
It's late. My brain is also like, what?
Sorry, that thing. But so, interesting thing about myself.
Yes.
I mean, I say this all the time because it's just interesting way of growing up now that I look back at it. I was born on Malcolm X and Yuri Kochiyama's birthday.
Woot woot.
With my father being being a radical black man
who was protective of his family.
Right. Who was very protective in again 80s, 90s, south side of Chicago and Watts, California. Um, I was, I honestly think I was taught more about Malcolm X than I was of Martin Luther King.
Mm.
And it's crazy because my dad is a pastor. You would think Dr. King would be, first one on the list. Not that I didn't learn about him.
Mm-hmm.
So half the stuff I know about both Martin Luther King and Malcolm X did not come from my school. It didn't come from schooling at all.
I mean, this goes to your point of like educate your children because the schools won't do it for you.
Exactly. So but almost and in fact, it was almost like because of that, my birthday every year was always like a big thing.
Ooh.
Even I remember at one point there might have been, I mean, it wasn't for me, obviously, but I remember there was either a parade or something that happened in Watts, and it was for like Malcolm X and just again like a bunch of stuff. And so Malcolm X was always like a hero to me.
Mm-hmm.
So you know that scene, if anybody ever watches like the first episode of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, like the actual pilot, there's a scene where Will is like posting up, he's listening to some random song, but he's posting up a poster of Malcolm X, and then he and Uncle Phil have a conversation about it. And he kind of realizes, because Will by this time thinks that Uncle Phil has made so much money and he's like living in Bel Air as like, the only black family, that he's, sold out and forgotten about, being black. And he corrects Will and he's like, oh yeah, so this is the one that you like and you say you look up to. He was like, I heard the brother speak. Like, you don't like get twisted. Just because I have money, I have not forgotten about my people now. Yeah. Like, don't get it twisted. So but that was kind of like how my upbringing was. Almost as much as there was of like getting certain parts of the Bible and like all this stuff, there was also this, we got to be here for our community. Malcolm X is like number one, right? So there used to be this thing in black households, and it's still a funny joke, where on old black ladies' TVs, like you go into your aunt's or your auntie or your grandma's house, and over her TV or somewhere on the wall, you're gonna see 3 pictures: Jesus, JFK, and Martin Luther King. For my household, it was, well, we actually didn't have any images of Jesus, which I actually adore, but it would have been essentially Jesus and Malcolm X. So
I was gonna laugh because like JFK's up there with Martin Luther King.
JFK and Robert. The Kennedys they have a quite interesting history with black people.
They do.
Yeah. But yeah, you definitely will see JFK up there. Black people love JFK. I think black people love JFK more than they love Clinton. Right. Exactly.
Well, with the stuff that's slowly coming out.
Clinton. Right. I was like, we're talking about 90s Clinton before people knew all the the extra stuff. And pre Monica Lewinsky.
Thank you all for listening to It Ain't New, where if you don't know, now you know. We're Nyke,
Bella,
Estar.
Please show us some love on Spotify by leaving us a rating or a review, and join our Patreon so we can grow and continue to give you all wonderful content.